It was the year 2017, and yet again, I was waking up from a heavy weekend of drinking, lost and unfulfilled. The routine was becoming all too familiar. Meet up with friends at the bar, indulge in shots, and become so intoxicated that the following day was a haze memory. And then rinse and repeat. Something had to change. I was really struggling to find my happiness, my purpose, and my motivation. It was a time where you could not convince me to pick up a book. Heck, if you even asked me to spell the word habit, I don't even think I can spell it. But this was the turning point in my mindset. I was no longer interested in, being unhappy or just feeling unfulfilled or just being unmotivated. It just wasn't aligning anymore. And after 7 years of the same freaking struggle, I decided to do something different. I took action. I picked up a book and I just read it. And it's crazy to look back, but this was one of the single greatest actions I've ever taken. This has propelled me to now read 150 plus books and dig deep into so many rabbit holes like self-development, mindfulness, productivity, business, spirituality, holistic healing, just to name a few. And today, I want to share one of those rabbit holes with you. Habits. Often I would eat right before bed. I'd play on my phone for a few hours before bed. I'd wake up in the morning, straight to I would talk. I would keep myself distracted with anything and everything that would raise just a slight amount of dopamine. I would be focusing on the negative. I would skip curiosity. I wouldn't ask questions. I was not an active listener, and I simply just kept giving up on anything I'd pursue. This had led to depression, alcohol and drug use, and just poor relationships, and also a few failed businesses. I didn't just wake up one day and be like, okay, let's change all these 39 bad habits and let's replace them with all these 20 good habits. It was small changes, day after day, month after month, but I mainly concentrated on 3 key pillars when I decided on what habits I wanted to change. The 3 key pillars are healing, building, and being. Healing could be more spiritual and the physical side of things. Building was more business and skills, and then being was more health and mindfulness. I'll be talking a lot about my philosophy of the heal, build, be. This is kind of the cornerstone of my personal brand and what is close to my heart. But for now, let's just stick into the habits. So I spent the last 5 years digging deep into habits and productivity. I just kept reading how habits can really change your reality. The more I dug into it, the more I realized that this is a big key to unlock a big door that's leading to happiness. Habits have been a consistent priority of mine the last 24 months. I started reading 5 years ago. It took me 3 years to just get the hang of all of the habits, what are habits, what habits not to do, and what habits to do, and to just replace it one at a time. So it took me a long time. It was just consistent, and it was fun, it was engaging, and what worked for me and what didn't work for me. I didn't do all the good habits. I'm still today not doing all the good habits, but I'm doing what works for my body. And this has changed every aspect of my life, from happiness to relationships and even to business ventures. I find habits are like gardens. Gardens need consistent watering and care, and it blooms, right? And I feel like that's like your habits. When you water and when you pay attention to your habits, you're watering them and you are caring about them, and they blossom just like a plant would. And then I also see how negative habits are like weeds. If you don't take care of the bad habits, or if you don't recognize the bad habits, you can continue them and they become part of your routine. You are then just allowing weeds to grow into your mind, and you're not cultivating a clean mindset. Therefore, you're not grooming or taking care of that garden. Now, the deep question is, what type of garden do you want? Let's dig into it. The first step in building strong habits is understanding what is the potential problems. This helps you take back control of your conscious mind, and it stops your unconscious mind from creating the world and the life that you do not want. So here's a quote from one of the habit masters, James Clear. The problem is not slipping up. The problem is thinking that if you can't do something perfectly, then you shouldn't do it at all. So let that sink in for a second. We basically need to remove any influence we have with our past selves and our past identity. So here are 5 hidden problems sabotaging our conscious mind. At number 1, we have the comfortable enemy. This is like routines. So getting too comfortable with the current routine can be very dangerous. This can cause current habits to become ingrained and to feel like these are the habits that you need to be doing. At number 2, the deceiver. The deceiver is like immediate gratification. This one often blinds us from the long-term damage that instant gratification can cause. This can be like excessive drinking, excessive eating, smoking, procrastination, just to name a few. These are things that in the moment, in those first 30 to 60 seconds, it's great. You're enjoying it, you're loving it. It's the consistent of that. And then what happens in 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years, it all compounds over time. And that's where the damage comes. At number 3, we have the saboteur. This is social influence and environment. This is one of the biggest game changers for me. Sometimes our surroundings, our friends, and our family can have the biggest impact on us. And they might not be aware of it. And it's not their fault. It's a very unconscious situation. But it's one of those that it's very important to realize where you want to go in the next 5, 10, 20 years. The environment we're in and the behaviors we observe can really shape our habits without us even realizing. The habitor is one of the hardest things to fight. At number 4, we have the relentless foe. The relentless foe is stress and emotional turmoil. This is when we develop harmful coping mechanisms, and those turn into bad habits. This can include substance abuse, overeating, and negative thinking patterns. This one strikes an emotional vulnerability. And at number 5, we call this the sly. And this is the lack of self-awareness and mindfulness. Personally, this is one of the most important ones. If you lack an understanding of behaviors and habits, you can fall victim of the cycle of harmful patterns. You really want to win against the sly enemy, so you can destroy harmful habits and be conscious of your beliefs. This all came full circle when I increased self-awareness and consciousness. I was able to see and notice what worked for me and what did not work for me. The key is to understand what habit enemy do you have to deal with. Changing my environment and the people around it allowed me to concentrate on my soul, my body, and what my mind wanted. I was no longer living for somebody else. I was no longer influenced by my environment. Okay, next, I want to discuss some of the most common poor habits. You'll notice a trend after like the 6th or 7th one. I'm thirsty. Drinking water is a good habit. I'm gonna go through 10 of them. At number 1, we have staying distracted. Now this can mean always turning music on, which is strange to think, right? But when you're always turning music on, you're then always keeping your subconscious mind busy. So consciously, you might not be listening to it. You might be doing a task or keeping yourself busy, but you are putting something on, and you're putting on a frequency and a noise, a vibration, and your brain is listening, your ears are listening. So you're actually not able to calm down and be still and be with your thoughts and let your subconscious come up with new thoughts or your intuition speak. At number 1, staying distracted, I think is one of the most important ones to break free from the unconscious and conscious being. Other ways to stay distracted is social media or any media. In that sense, you're keeping your mind extremely busy and reactive and releasing all these different chemicals that apps are trained to do and other accounts and other influencers and media are meant to do. They've studied these things and they study cognitive biases and how to keep us engaged. Another one is just avoiding quietness, being able to sit in a room and to just be for 5-10 minutes, to have no phone, no distraction, no noise, and to just be with your own thoughts. This is one of the most powerful things. It's really to the root of it. It prevents us from being present in our own self, which allows us to cultivate self-awareness. And it's crucial for personal and professional growth. At number 2, we have talking the talk. We spoke about this earlier on one of my things, and this one can be very dangerous. If it becomes a habit, you attach yourself to the premature satisfaction, which lessens your motivation. Something that I've done is I would tell people constantly on like, oh, I'm doing this business, I'm doing this here, I'm going for this goal, I'm going for this dream, I'm doing this. And I would attach my gratification, my satisfaction towards me telling the story. Then when it would come to doing it, I wouldn't be aware of this consciously, but subconsciously I've attached my dopamine, I've attached the excitement to telling the story instead of just telling the success or telling the, ooh, I've achieved, I've written my book, here it is, or I've launched this business, here it is. So it's an interesting one, but very, very common one. At number 3, we have giving energy to the wrong people. It's similar to we spoke about one of the common enemies at the beginning, but have you ever heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with? If you've never heard that saying, please research it. It is one of the most powerful sayings in my opinion, and this is where everything changed in my life when I started to change my environment, change the people in my surroundings. And these don't necessarily need to be humans. These could be also humans that you consume on social media or anywhere in your environment. The type of books you read, for example, on social media, what I've done, I've removed 95% of the followers that I was following, and I followed only 5 to 10 close mentors of mine that allowed me to consume their content and allowed me to consume the things that I wanted to become or wanted to be, because you're training your subconscious mind in the end of it. You want to align yourself with the individuals who align with your aspirations and your goals. At number 4, we have focusing on the negativity. Unfortunately, negative frequencies are more powerful than positive frequencies. Negativity doesn't contribute to happiness or productivity. It's just the way it is. At number 5, we have procrastination. Now, do you delay tasks or do you wait till the last minute to complete a task? This one's a very common one. At number 6, we have poor communication skills. So this one is a very interesting one because I always struggled with this till just a few years ago. I had a really, really good friend of mine, one of my best friends now, he opened the door to a whole new type of communication. These are just, again, past traumas and family traumas and communication styles that just were very closed, and there was no active listening. There was no open communication. It was very just reactive and very direct, no emotion involved, very transactional kind of communication, no self-awareness type of communication. It's hard to explain because I'm still developing my knowledge for it and still reading around it. But basically, key things that I learned is active listening. So listening because you care, listening because you want to hear what they're about to say, and you're not assuming. So one of the biggest things I learned is not assuming anything, because we all have different perceptions. We all see things differently. So when someone says something, if we assume that that's how they're supposed to feel or think because we feel that way, that is completely far from the truth, and you never want to assume. So one of the biggest things for me is just asking questions and continue to ask and to unveil and understand why they have those thoughts and feelings. And my goal is not to change them or to change the way they think or feel, but just to get a better perspective, so I'm not assuming and saying the wrong thing. And when I change those two key things, so active listening and just being curious, I formed so many more deep, meaningful relationships. And I also pushed away the individuals who had poor communication skills, which then ended up being very hard on me when I would have conversations with them, because there'd be so much confrontation. And number 7, ignoring curiosity. It kind of lines up with the poor communication side of it, but it's more ignoring the curiosity. So do you ask good questions? Do you ignore your thoughts? So it's not just about who you're asking and who you're talking to, but it's also yourself, because we do have a spirit and a body. So we do have an unconscious and a conscious mind. So you can kind of say like we have thoughts, then we talk to ourselves in a way, and we ask ourselves questions, and we're playing, and it's just self-awareness meditation, right? So what kind of questions are you asking yourself? Curiosity fuels learning and innovation. At number 8, we have ignoring being nice. By being nice, you're creating a healthy environment that attracts the people that you want to be around. It's a very good frequency. It's a high frequency by being nice. At number 9, we have giving up. Success and wealth are often the result of perseverance, even in the face of failure. At number 10, we have chronic hustling. In the modern age, this is a very tough one. This is a new one. There's a lot of studies coming out recently on how chronic hustling, working more than 8 hours, and working these crazy days and these crazy weeks and long hours actually have the biggest impact on our mental health, which actually has the biggest impact on our brain's growth, and dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things lead to chronic hustling. And it's actually scary and terrifying, and it's a lot of new discoveries and a lot of new studies are coming out. I'm still learning about chronic hustling. It is a big one. Okay, now at the beginning I said you will see a trend, and I'm hoping that you saw that trend. But if you didn't, I'll give you a quick little tip. Basically, all of these 10 common habits that I mentioned are all in our control. We can literally control all of these things. Let's take a break from these harmful norms. We recognize these barriers, and now we can make a conscious effort to change our habits. As humans, we have cognitive biases. It's embedded into our genes, from our past experiences to even how we were raised and spoken to as kids. Before we talk about the positive habits and the good habits and how we can change them and action step, these are all the bad ones, but like, okay, where's the yin and yang? Where's the good stuff? I just want to talk about some common misbeliefs and common subjections that I've seen in this space when studying this, and I see on comments and I see on threads, and I see just people commenting about why they can't change their habits and why their habits control them and all this type of stuff. So I do want to just go through the list real quick. So at number 1, small changes in habits. Many of us have tried and failed at changing their habits. This could be possible because of poor coaching, their surroundings, or just their education around the topic. What if I told you the key is to just do 1% better every single day? One small break at a time. I know we've all heard this from our ancestors, but Rome wasn't built in a day. It really wasn't. All of businesses have not built in a day. Houses are not built in a day. Nothing is built in a single day. So your habits, you can expect to wake up one day, I'm gonna change my habits. The following day, it's like, oh, everything's good. No, like it takes a freaking long time. You are, in a sense, a house. You are building your house. You're building your temple, your soul, however you want to call it. But every day you are putting efforts in. You are laying one brick at a time. And that's why it's important to understand that it's just small changes can make the biggest difference. There's this really cool analogy I came across, and I really want to share with you guys. It's habits as a stream. So a small stream can, over time, carve a deep path through a landscape. Similarly, small habits repeated constantly over time can make a deep impact on our lives. crazy, right? Because I'm sure if you go for hikes or a walk and you see streams and you see lakes and you see all these cool like rivers, you see the water, right? It has been passing for thousands and thousands and millions of years, and it's created a stream. Similar as habits, right? Like it takes time. Like the first time water's ever dropped, the first time water's ever flowed, which is crazy to think, there was no stream, there's no path. It's carved its own path just with consistent time. Have you heard of David Goggins? I've seen him pop up on all my social media for years now as one of like this big motivational guy, inspirational guy. He's often referred as the toughest man alive. He was once an overweight pest control worker, unhealthy, controlled by self-doubt. He just woke up one day after being fed up and decided to change himself. He began with small incremental changes. He concentrated on exercising, adjusting his diet, and the biggest fundamental of all, changing his mindset. His autobiography, Can't Hurt Me, Goggin details how the minor changes that he made every single day, don't forget emphasis on the minor, it really compounded over time. This helped him achieve his goals. Changes don't have to be drastic or immediate. Instead, they could be incremental and gradual, which builds sustainable habits over time. Okay, another one is lack of immediate results and difficulty in maintaining consistency. This one is not easy in the psyche. Receiving a lack of results immediately is very difficult. This can be extremely discouraging. The process of changing habits is more like planting a tree. You might not see anything right away, but with consistent care, the tree will flourish and grow. Focus on the process rather than the outcome, and be patient. You want to stay till the end. I'll be sharing my exact framework for changing habits and building the life that you want to achieve. This took me 5 years to master. Another misconception is I'm wired this way. This is a common misbelief that I've seen. Our genetics and personality do not define us. Yes, it can influence our behavior, but they do not dictate them. The human brain is magnificent. We can alter our brain. We call this concept neuroplasticity. So there was a study published in the Journal of Psychiatry Research. Neuroimaging in 2011 found that individuals who practiced mindfulness meditation for about 30 minutes a day over 8 weeks had measurable changes in brain regions associated with memory, sense of self, empathy, stress, and these findings provide evidence that meditation can change the structure of the brain. Another misbelief is fear of discomfort. Comfort is a drug. Comfort is a drug. There's a book called The Comfort Crisis. It's a book I haven't read yet, but I really want to read this book. It's something like that is just aligning in the modern age at the moment. And yeah, comfort's a drug. Change can be uncomfortable. It is much easier to stay in our comfort zones. With all the deep research I've done in ancient philosophies, I've realized that growth comes from stepping in the uncomfortable and in the unknown. And this is where you can embrace being uncomfortable. Okay, I want to just share some quick tips on how you can overcome discomfort, because I know that's also a very common one and something that I've worked really hard. Believe in your capacity to change. This is utilizing neuroplasticity. Small changes, 1% changes. Build a support network. Consistency is key. Use tools and resources like self-help books, podcasts, or coaches. Practice patience and compassion with yourself. Visualize happiness. What does happiness look like to you? We covered a lot, and that's amazing. Now it's time to talk about strategies to remove the bad habits. And then let's dig into what are good habits and what are the habits we can do. So I strongly recommend you look into the book called Atomic Habits by Jim Clear. It's a very, very popular book. So if you already checked it out, amazing. I've read it a few times now. It's one of my top 10s, and I could not recommend this book enough. This book has helped me understand the psychology of habits. I'm a very curious human being. If I want to change or upgrade or learn or grow or just do anything in that sense, I need to go to the root. When I learned about meditation, I flew to Nepal, where Buddha was born, and I spent 30 days in a monastery called Kopan Monastery with over 400 monks. And I just learned about meditation. I learned about mindfulness. I learned about Buddhism, because that's just something I really want to learn from. So instead of learning from my surroundings, why not go to where it was from, to just skip any possible misinformation? When I wanted to learn about spirituality, Nepal was a big part of it, but I flew to Bali. I've always heard how Bali is the spiritual island of the world, and I never understood why. So I decided, hey, why don't I go there myself, learn for myself? Whoever told me that was not lying. It is definitely a spiritual island of the world. Just the ancient traditions and the ancient energy there, the prehistoric ancient world of Indonesia / Bali. It's just such a special place, and I was able to spend 6 months there and indulge in spirituality and ceremonies and all these cool things. Can't explain them with words. And another thing is, when I wanted to learn about plant medicine, ayahuasca, I flew to Peru. I took a boat to the Amazon jungle in Quintos, and then practiced with a shaman for 10 days. Did ayahuasca a few times, and that was revolutionary. The reason I'm sharing all this is because I want you to understand the power of healing from the root, learning from the individuals who have experienced it and who felt it. James Clear, he's the master of habits. That's kind of why I'm saying all this. You want to learn about habits? James Clear. So here are 4 strategies that you can implement today to kick those bad habits to the curb. At number 1, we have make it invisible. Removing exposures to cues. Like, for example, if you snack on junk food, maybe hide them in your environment. Obviously, step 1 would be do not buy them when you go to the grocery store. Like, just stop buying them. But another one is just removing them from your cupboards. Put them in a hard spot. Put them in the car. Keep them at work so you like, but that's not a good idea. But you get the point. Like, remove them from where you tend to snack the most. Number 2, make it unattractive. Create negative feelings around that habit. So if you're a smoker, really take a look at the packaging. Like, they've done a really good job at putting it out there, but be with that for a second. Feel that. Imagine that is your throat or your mouth or your tongue. Picture having lung cancer. Like, imagine that. Make it so unattractive, so disgusting that you don't no longer want to pick up a smoke. At number 3, make it very difficult. Increase the number of steps between you and the habit. If you want to reduce the time on social media, delete the app. Or if you don't want to delete the app, log out of it. So every time you have to go on it, you have to log in. When I did my 12-month social media detox, that's what I did. I just deleted all the social media apps. And the one app that I didn't delete, I think it was Instagram. But what I did is I signed out of it. So when I did want to go on, I clicked on it. I was like, ugh, I'm not dealing with this. Probably because I forget my password and everything I do. And number 4, make it unsatisfying. You kind of want to create a punishment. So when you do X, you pay a friend, a colleague, a partner, a family member, $5, $10, $15, $100, whatever number allows you to not do that again. Okay, I'm over it. Talked about the bad shit, talked about the bad habits. We talked about how we can fight them, the psychology of it, what are the steps we can do to get rid of them. Now let's talk about the good shit. Let's talk about what are some good habits, how we can change it, how we can fix it. Let's have some fun now. Okay, per usual, before I talk about what are the habits, you know me, I like to go to the root right away. So let's talk about the root. When I'm referring to root, I'm referring to the why. Why in our psychology would we want to change a habit? What are the actual benefits? What are the strategies and systems for habits? If you don't understand the root of habits, it's like driving a car blindfolded. Eventually, you're gonna hit a tree. A few days will pass and you'll forget about the why, of why you're even changing that habit in the first place. But if you understand the why, the chances are much higher for you to succeed and for you to achieve that habit change. This is super exciting. Changing your habits is like becoming your true self. You'll be more aware, you'll be more conscious, which will result in better communication with others, which will result in better communication with yourself, which to me is more important than anything. You will find balance and you will find peace. You will heal from past traumas. You'll heal from limiting beliefs. You'll heal from the modern world. And this will allow you to become the best version of yourself and achieving anything you set out to achieve. Let's drop another quote. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Stephen Covey. So here are 9 other reasons why you want to adopt good habits. So improve holistic health. So habits around a good sleep, a balanced diet, regular exercise, and mindfulness. Studies have linked these habits to lower rates of chronic diseases, improve mental health, and longer lifespans. Increase productivity. Habits like time blocking, task prioritization, and adopting a morning routine can increase productivity levels. Work smarter, not harder. So another one is enhance relationships. Interpersonal habits like active listening, gratitude, and communicating your feelings can enhance the personal and professional relationships in your life. Another one could be financial stability. Financial habits like savings, investing, and living within your means. Another one is personal growth and learning. So reading and learning and reflecting on experiences can lead to personal growth. This is how you become a more well-rounded individual. Another one could be achieving long-term goals. So when you reverse engineer bigger goals into small bite-sized goals and daily habits, the chances are more likely to achieve them. Another one could be greater self-discipline and control. So like swapping negative habits for good habits is working a lot like on self-discipline. So like self-control can be beneficial in many areas of life. Another one could be lower stress levels. So habits and routine reduce the number of decisions you need to make in a day, which can reduce stress and decision fatigue. And one of the last ones is improvement in quality of life. This kind of summarizes everything together, but you get it. Everything can kind of lead to a holistic, balanced lifestyle. I hope that this was motivating and I hope that this encourages you to keep going. Let's talk about the strategies on how this can go down. So a key thing is mind over matter. So here are some psychological approaches to conquer habits. We're gonna cover the 3 key psychological understandings of habit transformation. At number 1, we have cue, craving, respond, and reward. So let's call this the habit loop. The cue triggers your brain to start a behavior, craving and the motivation behind every habit. The response is the action. A reward is the end goal of every habit. At number 2, we have the 4 laws of behavior change. James Clear presents these laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. It's the opposite of breaking bad habits. The role of identity in habit formation. So instead of focusing on the outcome, losing weight, writing a book, starting a business, focusing on who you want to become. You want to become a healthier person. You want to become a writer. You want to become an entrepreneur. When using an identity-based approach, it affects your self-image, which encourages acting in alignment with your new identity. Now, here are some principles and strategies that anybody can apply today to get the ball going. So start small. So meditate for 90 seconds. That's a huge win. Use habit stacking. So pair a new habit with an existing one. So you can tell yourself, right after I brush my teeth, I meditate. So now you're stacking these two habits. So you've trained your brain. After 66 days, you're brushing your teeth and you're going straight to meditation. Design your environment for success. So you want to create a space with no distractions. You want to maybe put quotes on the wall for inspiration, or quotes in your book or in your journal. You want to maybe put candles in the environment to create an ambience. Another one is make the habits attractive. You just want to make it easy and satisfying. Now you want to set intentions. Setting clear intentions like, I will meditate at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. I will meditate at 7 p.m. after dinner. Like, when you set clear intentions, you're telling your subconscious this is when you're doing it. It just increases the chances. Practice habit tracking. So I did this for the first couple months, and then it started to become long. It was the beginning and the strategy and the pillar and the system that I need at the beginning to make sure that I'm doing it. And I think it was more for my subconscious. I had an Excel sheet. I threw down all the habits I wanted to accomplish, and every day I would just look, okay, cross, and that allowed me to just train my mind, get into a system. And I think I want to complete and I want to achieve all these habits more than I want to go on the freaking Excel sheet and check. I think because of that, it made me do the habits, because it's like, I'll do it, trust me. And I just stopped the Excel sheet. And the last one is reframing your mindset. So as I always talk about, mindset is the most powerful and important thing. You just want to take the identity of who you want to become. You're not writing a book, you are the writer. So just change that identity, change your mindset, and your life will change. So are you seeing a trend again with the trends? Mindset. Mindset is the one thing you can have full control over. Nobody can tell you what you should believe or what you think. This is all within yourself. Nobody can take that away from you. All right, let's drop another quote. To change ourselves effectively, we first had to change our perceptions. Stephen Convoy. Okay, I want to do a quick little action step. So there's 2 more things left in this video. So there's going to be a quick little action thing for you on how and what you can do today to start your journey in changing the habits that you want to change. And at the end, I'm going to share my blueprint, my formula on what my habits are and what are the things that I do every day and the things that I've grown and learned to accomplish. In just 30 minutes a day for 21 days, you'll be able to see how easy it is to change a habit. So this is the exact challenge I created for myself when I started on the journey of changing some habits. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to grab a journal. If you don't have a journal, Google Docs, you can do it on any type of platform or software that you want to utilize to just take notes. Grab your journal, write down the 3 most important pillars for you. So the most common pillars are, as mentioned before, wealth, health, and relationships. These are the 3 pillars that I've chosen. Under each pillar, create 2 sides. It's similar to like the pros and cons, except you're gonna write good habits and bad habits. For each pillar, you're gonna want to brain dump all the good habits you have and all the bad habits you have. Don't forget, you have 3 different pillars, right? So you're gonna be doing it for, hypothetically, for health. What are all the good health habits? What are all the poor health habits? You'll be doing it for wealth, and then you'll be doing it for relationships. After you finish this, what you want to do is you want to circle 1 bad habit from each pillar. So each one, again, from health, wealth, or relationships. What is the 1 habit that if you can change from each pillar would make you extremely happy, satisfied, content, in what you think can change your life? You want to attach joy and some fun and some excitement to these 3 key things that you would like to change. This is where the magic happens. And the next thing I want you to do, so look at those 3 bad habits, bring them away from the page, write them on a new page or aside from the page or somewhere else, and write the opposite of that habit. So for example, if snoozing your alarm in the morning 9 times is a bad habit and you'd love to change that, now you're going to want to write waking up as soon as my alarm goes off. Something like that. If it's a bad habit is scrolling social media right before bed, you want to switch it to leave my phone in a different room before bed. If it's eating trans fat, you're going to want to write removing trans fat from my diet. If you write under wealth, no budget, you're going to want to create an investment plan. You get the point. Okay, now this is the last step. What you're going to want to do is for week 1, grab pillar number 1, and you want to do that habit for the next 7 days. So for example, we'll use phones and we'll do no social media surfing 3 hours before bed. What you're going to want to do is you might have wrote in leave my phone in a different room, put my phone on airplane mode, whatever you might have written as a way to combat that habit. You're going to do that for 7 days. And then for week 2, you're going to do the same thing with the second habit. And you're going to keep habit number 1. So you're still going to do habit 1 for week 2 and week 3, but now you've included a second habit. And then for week 3, you'll do the same thing. So at the end of these 3 weeks, you would have 3 new habits that you've implemented, and each week you've brought in a new habit. By the second week, the first habit should be easier, and it should be more subconscious. It should be more kind of trained. You've kind of trained yourself. And then by the third week, you've now changed 3 habits. You spent 30 minutes a day. Yes, if one of them is exercise for an hour, it's more than 30 minutes, but the 30 minutes is meant to be a self-assessment. So you spend 30 minutes a day and you're assessing, do I like this habit that I changed? You're gonna ask yourself, is this habit working for me? Do I like the habit that I changed? Do I notice a difference in my life? Do I notice a difference in the way I communicate? When I wake up in the morning, do I have a better sleep? You wanna understand, is this habit bringing me value? Because if you're able to answer yes, it's bringing me value, it's highly recommended you keep that habit for longer than the 21 days. The 21 days is more of an assessment period. It's to understand and to analyze, okay, what's working for me, what's not working for me. If you can, and if you do like the process, I'd recommend you do that for the next 12, 24, 36 months. Do that for the next couple of years. That's what I did. I spent time and time again doing a habit change, spent a couple of days, a couple of weeks on it, see, reflect, has it changed my life? Did it increase my life? Did it make it worse? Whatever. And I kept it or I got rid of it, because we're not meant to do all these habits. Like, I'm sure you've come across people who wake up at 5 in the morning every day. I did that for 3 months. Yeah, I did it for 3 months. It didn't work for me. I was exhausted by the end of the day. But waking up at 6 worked, where before I used to wake at 7. So there's ways to change it, right? Taking cold showers every day. Again, that's a habit a lot of people have. Not a lot, but some people have. I tried it. I can't do it. But what I can do is I can have cold showers 1 to 3 times a day, because when I do take a cold shower, I notice how much more energy I have and how much more awake I am. But it's not something I can do every single day. That's where the self-assessment comes into play. And that's why it's so vital, so important. So you don't get drained and you do what connects with you. I'm well aware that habits take time. They take more than 21 days to make it a habit. They say there's so many freaking studies, but they say it takes around 66 days. But again, like I said before, 20 days is more of an assessment period. So let's drop one more quote, and then I'm gonna give you exactly what my habits are and exactly what I do every single day. I actually wanna give 2 more quotes because these quotes are very powerful. So, habits are not a finish line to be crossed. They're a lifestyle to be lived. James Clear. Love that quote. Couldn't agree more. It's a lifestyle that you want to live. It's a lifestyle that I live. People say, what are your habits? No, it's just my lifestyle. Then a quote is, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. So if you've heard of the 8th wonder of the world from Warren Buffett, compound interest, compound is found and seen in everything in life. And it's also found in self-improvement in life. This is just, it compounds over time. So it takes a couple of years and then it just skyrockets. Here's my blueprint. Here are the 13 habits that I want to share with you. There's probably a list of so many more, but I want to give you the 13 key ones that I do every single day. I have packaged and I've systemized these as much as I could into my daily life. This has brought me a sense of freedom, and like I've never imagined this could be possible. I've tied my happiness to my system. One of the really good quote is, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So I have this habit flywheel that I create. So it's kind of just this flywheel that this leads into this and that leads into that, and each habit leads into each habit. And that's why it's so important to do as many habits as you possibly can that connect with you, because they all connect with each other. They all compound with each other. The first one, very controversial, but I changed to 80% podcasts and 20% music. And even 20% is a long shot. Barely listen to any music anymore. I like it in creative states, and I like it when I need a little bit of inspiration. Like, music is nice, don't get me wrong, but you are what you consume. Dropping music is very hard for me, because yes, there's some good music out there, but music it puts you in certain brave states and certain brain waves, right? Like the frequency and the noise of the music. And some music is unfortunately very toxic and bad, like the words they use and what they say. And you're in a sense training your mind, right? So even if I'm not consciously listening to the podcast, subconsciously, unconsciously, I'm listening to the words that's being said, and I'm training my mind while I'm not even being conscious of it. So that has changed drastically. That's a big habit that I implied, and I've noticed a huge difference and changed my life. The second one is removing a lot of social media accounts. This one was very hard. This one took me a few years to grasp it, but I spend a day, I'd remove 5 to 10 people, and then the next day I'd remove another 5, another 10. And it's just, if it's an account that I wish I continue to follow, I click on them, I look at their last 6 posts. And if their last 6 posts don't align with me, don't align with the person I've become, I remove them. Because if you think about it, if you've been following people from 2012, 2013, 2014 for 5-10 years already, you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. You'd hope not. And if you are, then it's something that you need to look in the mirror and have some self-awareness towards that. So sometimes some accounts remind you of the past you used to be. I used to follow accounts like meme accounts and all these dark accounts when I was dealing with a lot of my mental health, and I align with a lot of those meme accounts because I felt the pain, because they answered to my pain, because I align with that person behind that meme account. But you fast forward 5-10 years now, I've been working on my mental health and working on my mindfulness for such a long time that by continuing to following those words and those accounts is actually a detriment to my brain. A big thing is unfollowing accounts that don't align with you, and celebrities. Unfollow those celebrities. That's not a life that we want to live. And if it is a life you want to live, then follow all of them and aim for that life. But for me and for most people in the self-development space, they don't really want to live that type of lifestyle. Why follow a lifestyle that you don't want to live? Another one is no blue light after 6 p.m. I have some blue light blockers, and I put those on if I'm reading my Kindle, or if I'm reading after 6, or if something has to happen after 6, I have my blue light blockers. Removing blue light from my life after 6 p.m., I recalibrated my circadian rhythm. And we'll have other conversations about circadian rhythm in the future, and pineal gland and our melatonin, serotonin, and all that. But the blue light blockers, removing blue light, has allowed me to have deeper and better sleeps, which is a holistic approach to better lifestyle. Meditation every day. This one has been in my agenda, or has been in my life for maybe 8 years now, 10 years, and it took me 4 years to even be able to meditate longer than 3 minutes. Meditation is a huge thing for me. It's what saved my life, and that's what brought me out of the dangers that I used to be in. So yeah, meditation is a big one. Sometimes I do 2 minutes. Sometimes I do 60 minutes, but it's very possible that if I just don't feel it that day, I'll just do 2 minutes. At number 5, I like to stretch or do some yoga. To me, stretching or yoga, some yogis are deep into their yoga, and that's so amazing. And I've tried it in the past, but for me, I like a nice stretch. And I do all of the yoga poses, but it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't really have necessarily a flow that yogis have, but what I do have is if I have a deep stretch of all my muscles. And to me, that's very, very important. I don't really care what you call it, but what is important is just stretching that muscle. At number 6, I have read before bed. This one took me, again, a long time to incorporate into my life, but reading before bed has changed my dream states. I have better creative dreams because, again, whatever you consume, you become. So when I read something, I fall asleep, and these dreams are just more elevated, more increased, and just better. Before, I used to watch TV before bed. This was couple years ago, and again, I can tell in my dreams I'd have bad dreams, I have a bad sleep, and you're just training your mind again for somewhere you don't want to become. At number 7, I have drinking 2 glasses of water. So drinking 2 glasses of water as soon as you wake up in the morning. Your brain is such a magnificent tool. It takes 20% of your energy and this 2% weight of your entire body consumption. So it takes a lot of energy compared to how much it weighs. If you sleep for 7 to 8 to 9 hours, 6 hours, however long you sleep, like that is a complete period of 8 hours of no water. Your brain is working the entire time. Your brain doesn't go to bed. So you're very dehydrated. And since your brain is over 80% of water, it needs to get some water in it. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you drink 2 glasses of water. It's very important for your brain, but also for your entire body. It slowly wakes up all your 1,000 million neurons in your gut, and like it wakes everything up. It starts processing life, and it's a big thing that I know it's a huge difference in my life. Another thing is having a morning routine, just having a system, having a process where my morning routine is very, very simple. I wake up I try to aim for 6 o'clock, but the number one thing is get 8 hours of sleep. So whenever I get my 8 hours, depending on what time I go to bed at, wake up, 2 glasses of water, brush my teeth. After I brush my teeth, I come into the room, I do a 5 to 10 minute stretch, and then I do a 10 to 30 minute meditation. And after that, I journal for 5-10 minutes, prep my day, start my day, and just get a line. It takes me about an hour to 2 hours of a morning routine, but it starts the day off great. Nighttime routine, which is very underrated. A lot of people don't really talk about the nighttime routine, but the nighttime routine, I would argue, is probably more important than your morning routine, and it just sets you up for the following day. If you have a bad night or a poor night, you have a poor sleep, which then results in a poor morning routine. So nighttime routine is very simple, but 3 hours before bed, no food, no TV, and I try to do no phone. So just no distractions, no reactiveness, just either a book, journal, relax, walk, that kind of stuff. Number 10, I have 8 hours of sleep. So 8 hours is a nice number, 7.5, 8.5, but 8 hours is a great number. I have the Aura Ring, so this allows me to study my sleep patterns, to understand when I get my most REM sleep, my most deep sleep, because you try to maximize all these periods of percentages. REM sleep is very important for the innovation and the creative, and it comes towards the end of the night, so around 4 or 5 in the morning. So you want to make sure you sleep within your REM period so you can have a nice, rejuvenated brain when you wake up. Number 11, very hard one, still working on it today. That's why it's at the bottom of the list, is walking for 30 minutes a day. I'm very active. I play a lot of sports, but sometimes I get very consumed in my work and I just don't end up walking at least minimum of 30 minutes a day. So this is what I'm working on right now, but it's one of the habits I know it's very, very important. Everyone speaks about why walking is so important. At number 12 is intermediate fasting. This one has been getting a lot of good raps and a lot of bad raps, but to me, intermediate fasting works for my body. I'm a huge person. Do what works for your body. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing, but do what works for you. And intermittent fasting is a huge thing for me. I studied it for a few years ago, and I noticed that it took me about 3 months to test it and to see if it worked. But I realized that intermittent fasting gave me an extra 20% of energy in my day. No joke. It's crazy. I used to get a little tired and foggy around 4, 5, 6 o'clock. Now I don't get foggy till I go to bed. I don't get foggy till like 8, 9. Like, it's amazing just by not eating between a certain period. So I only eat between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. That's my eating period. After that, I don't eat. I drink a lot of water. You have to drink a lot of water when you wake up, and a lot of water too. For your system, it worked for me. And then I actually tried to eat again and tried to eat breakfast. I used to be a big breakfast eater. I tried to eat breakfast and I noticed I started crashing, right? Your blood sugar levels, all that. So like I started crashing around 3, 5 o'clock. So do what works for you. I highly recommend you give it a shot. There's amazing, crazy amount of studies around it. And number 13, an investment plan. So this is beyond important to set yourself up for the future, to allow compound to work. So what is your savings plan? What is your investment plan? If your wages, let's say hypothetically, you get $10,000 a month, how much of it is going to savings? How much is going to your expenses? How much is going to investing? How much is going to your goals in your future, right? I think a good split that I've been utilizing is a 50, 20, 20, 10. What that means is 50% goes towards your expenses. So your living, your food, anything that is considered an expense, 50% of your wage, doesn't matter how much it is, goes towards your expense. Never live higher than your means. So 50% to your expenses, 20% into an investment account, 20% into a long-term investment. So you have the short-term investments and long-term. Short-term is like stocks like Apple and Microsoft. And then index funds is more long-term. So it's more like 10, 20, 30. It's like RSPs and stuff like that. And then the other 10% is savings, which is your goals, your dreams. Like where do you want to travel next year? What do you want to achieve? Like, what do you want to, like, what brings you happiness? Unfortunately, some things cost money. For me, traveling is my happiness. So for me, that 10% goes into a travels account. I can go off with so many more habits, but those are the key 13 that align with me, that connect with me, and that have made the biggest impact. And I'm glad that I've been able to share that with you guys. But in the end, like I said, you need to find what works for you. That is the most important thing. Good, strong habits has allowed me to dig deeper within myself, find my purpose, and create the life that I want. I know it's cliche words, but heck, it works. So don't forget, this is 5 years of me testing all these type of things. And it's taken 5 years for me to increase the quality of my life. I did prioritize happiness during my learnings and during my discovery. Like, happiness was the main goal I was going after. Some people, their main goal might be money, status, wealth, relationships, but mine was happiness. And you'll see that, notice that all my goals are targeted around happiness. If any of these 13 habits make you curious, please reach out. I'd love to discuss these further. I'd love to dig deeper. I'd love to jump on a podcast, anything like that. We're done for today. I'm gonna leave you with one last quote. This last quote has been one of my favorite quotes, but let's do it. We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. We're spiritual beings. Have fun. Be you. Listen to your soul. Listen to your spirit. Thank you so much. Talk soon.